Yeah. Most salespeople are trained to probe for problems. But
Mm.
what if that approach is fundamentally flawed? By shifting from a limiting, problem centric mindset to a positive, opportunity driven conversation, sales professionals can build trust faster, close deals more effectively, and create long term customer advocates. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because we're about to challenge conventional sales wisdom and look at a fresh, powerful alternative that has the potential to transform both sales success and customer relationships.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Dr. Joseph Riggio, is a thought leader in transformational change, persuasion, and leadership with over 30 years of experience developing breakthrough with multiple models. With him, Henrik Vino, CEO of Acuity World, who has spent more than 2 decades training leaders and sales professionals globally in innovative sales and leadership methodologies, including the Personal Selling Program, PSP, and Satisfaction Selling Method. Together, they bring a neuroscience-backed approach to sales that shifts professionals from problem-focused selling to a high-trust, high-value advisory model that drives long-term success. And I can't wait to hear about this one. Happy to have you with us. Welcome to the show, fellas.
Thanks, Rob. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. I prepared them. I'm representing the sales world now who is clutching their blankets right now and going, no, you can't get rid of this, the problem-based selling. But walk me through this a little bit. So I'm basically trained by, are you familiar with Neil Rackham and
Yeah,
spin
sure.
selling? Okay.
Yeah.
A scientist, problem-based model that every Xerox employee and half the authors in the United States are writing to. And you guys say, so what do we got wrong there?
You couldn't set me up better.
Okay.
You didn't mean to, but you couldn't set me up better.
All right.
Because in 1990, I did a deep dive research into Rackham's work.
Okay.
So I'm a trained neuroscientist as
Right.
well. And I come at this from a different point of view. I come at this from a point of view of looking at it through what we can call exemplar modeling, right? So what really works? That's the question. Not what does it work in the laboratory, not what works in some academic's mind, not works out of the real situation. So I went to a different route. What Rackham did, you have to understand Rackham's model. He's a scientist and he did a great piece of research that's tremendously flawed. And what I mean by that is he started with people who were trained, IBM, Colgate-Palmolive, right? Bristol Myers,
Xerox. Yeah.
Xerox. How were these people trained? They were trained in problem-based models. So he found the best of problem-based training. He didn't consider the possibility of doing anything other than problem-based training. So he literally, what he did is he skimmed off the top, found these are the best people using this bad model. That's what he did. And he then codified that model. Rackham's words, I'm going to share Rackham with you, says situation, right? Problem, implication, need. Rackham says, spend 5, maybe 10% of the time setting up the situation. Spend up to 80% of your time defining and deepening the problem. You should know your customer's problem better than they do. Then once you know that, and you've shared it with your customer, then you go into implications. Rackham says, do not spend more than 5% of your time maximum on implications because it makes the customer uncomfortable and they will begin to retreat. Then he says, the final step called need is the only time in the process the customer experiences satisfaction in the process, because this is where you share with them what they need to resolve the implication that you've just told them about. That's Rackham's model.
Okay.
I went, this sounds like a bad model.
Okay.
You have 95% of your time either presenting your client with things they aren't interested in, their situation. So they're extracting their problem. They're talking about what they don't want to face. You go deeper into the problem. So now you make them feel bad about what they've done wrong. And they're the decision maker. So you're basically telling them, by the way, all those decisions you made to get here, they were stupid. And then the third thing you're doing is saying, oh, by the way, if you keep doing what you've been doing all along, your world's going to explode. Oh my God. Thunder, lightning, lava from the sky coming down on you. Real bad, 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 bad. But I'm going to give you something. I have the salve for the wound I just tore open and poured salt into with you. That's his model. Now, I'm being a little facetious, a little exaggerated.
A little.
Are you? It was so timid of you. Okay, I'm gonna poke a couple thoughts at you.
Please.
I'm not disagreeing with you completely. I'm just curious. Does your partner feel the same way, or am I just going to yell at you, Joe? All right.
You just yell at me because we'll protect the Danish guy for a little while.
All right. Okay. Well, let me come at it this way, and then Henrik, I want to hear your 2 cents. Okay. It's interesting. I not only was trained by Xerox and trained in spin, but I was what's called a D-squared certified spin instructor. So I actually learned, they say if you want to learn something, teach it. Okay.
Sure.
So I taught it and I could certify people in spin and stuff like that. And to your point, there were areas I felt were flawed. Now, for being a guy who's supposed to know more about this than you do, you're teaching me a few things. I wish you had, and I'm glad I never learned them because some podcast, huh? But my point to you is I never heard percentages. Okay, never heard percentages. So I'm going to wipe out the percentages and look at it just sort of a technique of creating trust situation. Earning the right to be able to discuss a client's problem because we probably aren't there if everything's running perfectly. And then, whereas an author, I made certain changes, there's the theory in the ivory tower, and then there's taking it out into the field. Sure. To me, I don't know about implication. I actually created a middle move called developing, which is you know the problem, I know the problem, but I don't think either one of us understand the extent of it. So let's just spend a few moments problem solving it. In other words, just hearing more about it, going deeper, maybe asking you questions you haven't thought about yet. To me, that's developing the problem. The I, implication or impact, is, so overall, what do you think this is going to do to you? And that's the scary one. I think if you and I were at a Starbucks together, and you were telling me I'm having a situation at home, you'd almost shake my hand rather than me tell you, here's what to do about it. If I said, you know what, I'd like to hear more about that. But I don't know about the percentages move there. I would spend 95% of my time on developing the problem, not 5%. So that's where I got a little lost.
Well, you're calling developing, I guess he calls implication or impact.
Here's the thing, he does, but I'm telling you, there's more to implication or impact. If I did that, I'd say, what challenges you having with your model, man? You go, well, some people, they're stuck in old habits. And I would say, what's the impact of that? You go, how would I know? If I knew that, I'd have changed already. To me, the developing part is, cause why?
Right.
What do we call that question? I had to give it a name. Right. Yeah. Okay. Then it's different.
Yeah. As I studied Rackham, he kind of, I believe at least, covers that in what he calls problem, which is why you're spending 80% of your time in that space. But
okay.
I get it. But I agree with your process.
Yeah.
Regardless of the names. So however we want to phase it out. Okay.
Yeah. And let me throw one other thing at you. And Henrik, I want you to react to this one. Okay. Okay. This is for you, sir. I also think that we get a little locked in, not you guys, me and the sales world. We get locked in that everything is because of a problem. In other words, what problem? And so it almost gets dark at times. I had when I was trained to sell, I remember, don't be offended, but I remember my manager telling me, Jollis, if they cry, they'll buy. Okay. So I'm in there opening that wound up. Rawr. But in reality, there's 2 ways to motivate people. Consequence, here's what happens if you don't do it. Or value. What happens if you do? How will this help your company expand over here, et cetera? So it's not necessarily a dark conversation. Henrik, how would you react to that? Is that something you're comfortable with?
Again, here I would say that I see that I will start by answering a different question. I agree with you. There's basically 2 ways you can motivate people, either what we would call away from motivation or towards motivation. But the big challenge we are having with starting with a problem is that if you solve a problem, you basically just bring the situation back to status quo. You're not necessarily bringing the customer to where they want to go. And I think that's why we are challenging this whole foundation of starting with a problem. It simply creates in-the-box thinking. And again, so what we want with our approach is to simply help the customer get higher quality thinking by bringing them into a different mindset, into a different thinking pattern, where they can actually access not only what's wrong, but what they truly want to see happen for their organization or what they want to actually create and improve. So I think it's not that the problem-based model doesn't work, but it seldom bring the customer what they actually want. My old manager in Daco, which I also introduced this model to back more than 20 years ago, when he finally got it, I remember he said to me, Henrik, you won't believe how much time I have spent in my career solving problems that would never have prevented me in getting my results. So I think it's also about really helping the customer focus on what actually create real value for them and not just fixing problems. Because, the world is full of problems that we could just leave alone because they're not actually standing in the way of us getting what we want. So I think it's fundamentally it's about creating more value, but also helping the customer prioritize their time and energy where it really helped them the most. And you don't do that by starting, as we would say, in the wrong place, in the wrong corner. Because when you start from a problem-based starting point, the customer cannot tell you what they truly want. They can basically just tell you what they want to not have.
Yeah.
Because there's no, basically, customers, when you start with this heavy problem foreload, the customer react as a human being. They go into fight and flight. And that means that this part of the brain shut down. And now it's basically the amygdala and more primitive part of the brain that guides them. And that's also often why you get buyer's remorse, you get resistance to making a decision, and because they're afraid.
Right. Yeah.
And
It's interesting you mentioned that because there's an area also where I actually disagree with Rackham, which is I think that Rackham doesn't, to me, and the way I learned it is those situation questions, which are background questions, whatever we want to call them. That's not necessarily revolutionary, but what I think we have to pay attention to is to not jump out of there. We want to jump out the moment a client says, "Ouch," we go, "Ouch." Oh, I'll show you what to do with ouch. And we either go deeper into the problem or we solve it for them or whatever. Okay. And again, if they already knew that, that's why they're fighting you on price. They don't have any urgency to fix it. And so I think that one of the mistakes that people make, and I'm hearing you say, I believe, is that we don't we don't start with a problem. We don't jump on the first problem we hear. We truly earn the right to move to that level of conversation. And actually I can tell you from actually administering the test, the certification test, that if you hear a problem, an implied need, perhaps, as Neil would call it, right? Then your task is to immediately seek out more information on it. When in reality, go out in the field and try that, and you will get punched in the nose.
yes.
What you do is you say, well, let me make sure I got that one. And in my head, now let me find two more that you haven't told everybody about that you don't think. But that's where the trust comes in. We kill trust the moment we jump out into that problem. Joe,
so Rob, you're okay. Go ahead.
All right, Henrik, you go.
This is where we want to disagree with you because
good.
Fundamentally, I think when you confront people with their problems, you're not necessarily building big and fast trust because in a way, people don't like to talk about their problems.
Right.
And it will not be what I would call a healthy trust you are building there. So again, our starting point is basically about building trust from a positive angle by having what I would call a real curiosity around what have brought the success the customer is already having. Because if they feel that you're really interested in what they do well, suddenly they start to like you more. And without knowing it, you will build trust much, much faster. Because when you talk about what they really do well, they have nothing to hide.
Okay.
And it will be easier for them to open up and relax. And when they open up and relax, when they have a good feeling in themselves, they will associate that to you. And that will be transformed into, wow, I like this guy. I can trust him. He's not a threat.
Okay. All right. Here, listen to this sound.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Rackham anymore, and I don't want to talk about somebody anymore. I want to talk about you guys. Okay, you've opened the door. I'm all ears now. I hope what I'm doing is, in a sense, representing what most people think. So I want you to now sell me. And you're in the process of doing it. So what's the alternative? Okay, I get that's an old school move. I keep moving on. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Give me what you guys have.
I think Joseph start here.
Let me pick up on a little bit on what you had said.
Okay.
So Rackham, any other model, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You walk in, you go, you don't want to jump on that first problem that you're here. You want to dig and go deeper. What are the other problems? That whole mindset is still predicated on the idea, my job is here to solve problems. It's a problem-solving model.
Mm-hmm.
What we're saying instead is this. Again, I went back and I said, I looked at these people who were not necessarily trained in the way that was built on a problem-based model. And many of them weren't even trained at all. They were what you could call kind of natural persuaders. And what I was looking for was people who broke the model. These people were so good, we had to take them out of the analysis, or they changed the bell curve and pulled it too far to the right. That was the problem. So what we did is we looked at these people who were now presenting up to 80% of the sales that the company was making by themselves in a sales force of anywhere from 10 to 100 people. Crazy numbers. What were they doing differently? And that's where we started the model. Now, I came in, I will tell you, with a strong bias. My bias was to uncover whether or not you could operate from a positively organized bias, not find problems at all, literally to go to where there aren't problems. That's what we do. So we start out and we're asking these guys, we go, hey, Bob, you're running this podcast. And my guess is, as good as it is, maybe you wish it could be even better. Bigger audience, more in-depth conversation, more, sponsors, whatever it is, whatever for you would make it even better, right? But you're already doing well. You're out there, you've got an audience, you've been doing it for a while. You're obviously good on camera, you're good on screen, and you're eliciting from us real engagement. I'm guessing your audience will recognize this is real engagement, not just, trivial BS at the surface. And so given all that, how did you get here? How did you get to where you're able to do this so well?
You want me to answer it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about I don't answer it, but I got the question. All right. But
if you don't answer it, I can't give you the next question.
All right. Okay. How did I get here?
Go deep.
How did I get here? Yeah. I just basically leveraged certain relationships, tried to use everything I've learned in my career. And I found it to be one of the most exciting moves I've made in the last 10 years of not only extending my network, but learning from other people who don't do things necessarily the same way I do. It's been enriching and 10 times better than writing a blog.
Okay, that's great. I love the not writing a blog piece. I've been there, done that.
16 years of writing a blog. You can do that in a closet, but I didn't get to talk to anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. So what happens is this thing that we just did, this little exchange, what got you here, organized from a positive point of view. Right. First, I fed in a positive orientation, then asked out of that positive orientation, how did you get to the point where you're doing what you do well? There's no hesitation for you to answer that question in terms of if we were in a real field situation. You're not afraid to answer that question. You're not afraid that you're going to lease something that either I can use against you, because for some people, sales is an adversarial experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can use there that can hurt you, so to speak. So the next question I get to ask is, okay, if it's that good already, you get to do all this stuff. You expand your network. You're learning more. You get to do something you obviously enjoy and love to do. And you're not having to sit down in the closet writing a darn blog, right? The next question we would always ask is, what would make it even better? And this was the model I found was working. They went in and they engaged with people around the things that made these people feel good. Like Henrik was saying, that feeling in their body was already good. They were positive. What Henrik labeled the green state versus the red state, the positive versus the negative. And then the next question always becomes, what makes it even better? And at that point, the client opens up. Well, if this were possible, and if this could happen, if we could have that, we can have this. And what you eventually find out, what they're describing to you is what their world looks like when there aren't problems. Now my job is to help them get there. And I never have to talk about the problem. I never have to address the problem. Because if we build that world, the problems have gone away. Does that make sense, Henrik, the way I'm saying it?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, I think the fantastic way is that imagine that we would do that with you, and in 1 year you will be at what we call your desired state, and you look back, you will see that we have actually fixed things, and we will have done things we would have been able to help you see as a problem. But the way we do it, it doesn't feel like problems. It feels like things we just do and organize. So it have a different emotional tone to it. And when there is a more positive tone associated to it, when we come back to you in a year and say, okay, now you are here, where would you like to go next? You will be more inclined to speak to us again because, wow, last time was fantastic. So why not give them a chance to bring me even further? And I think this is why this a much more powerful model if you're not only want to sell once or twice, but if you want to keep the customer and have really great lifetime value out of customers that want to buy not only 2-3 times, but 8, 10, 15 times from you. Because they start, every time they see you, they see, wow, here is the organization, the person that can bring us to the next level. They have done it before, why not again? So you build this spiral of continuous success up and up and up.
Okay. I'm following you. And again, you're disrupting a lot of things that are in my brain right now in a very positive way. Okay. Mm-hmm. So please continue to take this positive. Remember, why am I not writing a blog? So I can talk to guys like you. I want to be challenged. We're evolving. The last time I looked out the window, we're evolving. We have to evolve the conversations we're having too. So these questions are just trying to help me kind of work this out. I've always been led to believe that, people don't fix small problems, they fix big ones. Or people don't chase small needs, they'll chase big ones. If they chase a small need, they're going to go to a Target department store, okay? They're going to look for a very inexpensive solution. So how do we get me past that kind of line in the sand of, I know this has been an issue, I really value this conversation, it's been very positive, but I've known this issue has been for the last 4 years. Can this get me past that fix don't fix line? By you're doing a wonderful job of establishing trust. I love the relationship you're building. Will it create urgency?
I think it will create something which is much more powerful. I think it will remove urgency. And when you remove urgency, you help the client have higher quality thinking. So the decision that end up taking will be of a much higher quality, which you will get and which will lead to less buyer's remorse. It will lead to less objections because they really understand that the decision they have now taken is something they really like. So I think what our process is really strong at and where it really differentiates is that you're not only getting the commitment from the client, you also get the compliance. And I think that's a big challenge with the problem-based model is that the customer say yes, but then they don't follow through.
Because they feel bad.
Okay. All right. I'm actually thinking I'm not going to be sleeping well tonight. You're really disrupting everything about me at this point. But I'm loving this conversation. Did you have you guys put any study or thought into the decision side of this, the decision cycles, or let's separate ourselves from the sales model. You guys are scientists. Look at the decision model. Have you put some thought in there, and are they lining up?
So first, I want to just define something. I'm a neuroscientist with a little n, which means I spend my time mostly in cognitive space, not looking at neurons and microscopes and doing instrumentation. So the decision model was where I started. My PhD was on decision modeling, right? So before I go there and before Henrik jumps in with whatever he has to say, define what you mean by the decision model, because you use that as a definitive idea.
Yeah, because I've studied it myself. Right, and so
to
me, there is, everybody has their own version, just like sales. It's not
I'm asking you.
But I believe it's repeatable and predictable.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, but what do you mean when you say the model? Is there a particular model of decision making that you're thinking about that
Well, I'm
people
thinking of
walk
mine,
from?
but as I said, I know there's more than mine out there. I'm
Right.
just curious if you want me to talk about mine. I mean,
No, I
there's
just want to know if
models
we're
out there.
talking about a particular model or the
No,
idea of
no,
making
just a.
decisions.
Let's take out the word "the" and just call it a decision cycle
Right.
of
Okay.
some sort. Yeah.
So
Now, hmm,
we have a number of steps that feed into the decision model,
Hmm.
right? And what we're looking at is moving somebody from whatever beliefs they have right now that limit them from getting the outcome they want to installing new beliefs that allow them to take the action they need to create the result they want. That's the decision process, you could call it. And it starts with, as you just used the word, trust. So we start with the idea, actually, before trust, of centering ourselves. So we want to know that we're in a mental state and we're sending messages at this nonverbal level that we're trustworthy, because people make the decision before anything comes out of your mouth,
Right.
by the way you show up. Your attitude, your stance, your demeanor is actually a representation of what's in your head. We can't get away from this. This is how humans operate. And then from there, we build what we call connection. Connection is where we're really starting to engage. We're beginning to establish, I see you as a human being, Rob. I know who you are. I'm getting that you have your own agendas, interests, alignments, authenticity. And I make sure you know that I'm not overriding you with whatever I think and imposing, this is about Joseph's world. It's not about Joseph's world. It's about something we're going to create together. So there's a part of this that we can refer to as intersubjectivity, where we're building something that's between us, not yours or mine. And you allow me, because of that, to share my ideas, right? And then once we get that established, then we move into a step we're going to call clarity. And clarity is about defining with precision, what is the outcome you want? What is it you intend to produce? Take away, I come in, and the huge advantage I have as a salesperson, I have a huge bucket of pixie dust. So I sprinkle it in the room, all the problems go away. There's nothing but a ground zero, blue ocean we're in. If you were literally in blue ocean, what would you want to happen next for yourself, for your business, for your customers, in the market, whatever it is? Tell me what that looks like. And we define that with precision and clarity. Once we have that established, that precision and clarity, we can then move on to building from there what we would call compulsions, the reason for you to act. And this is where we're building now new belief structures. If this is true, and this is true, and this is true, and you ask the question about urgency, and I agree with Henrik, we don't want urgency. We want clear, precise thinking. But we will ask this question: what would have to happen between where you are today? We've talked about that, right? What we call the present state, and the desired state. What would have to happen between those two things for you to be in the desired state? That's what we're doing in the compulsion phase. From compulsion, we go to commitment. We need to get agreement. So you say, this is what you need. Here's what I can bring to you. Here's what we can add in for the resources. Now, at this point, here's where we're also radically different, I think, than mostly every other sales model.
There's more radically different. I didn't think you could get more radically different, but keep going.
My customer never gets to say no. I say no. I'm the one who goes, you know what? There's nothing I can do for you, given what you say you want and the way you want to get there, that I can put on the table. Salesperson should always be in control of the no. They should never turn over the control of the no to the client, ever. They should walk out before the client ever gets a chance to say no, because they know they can't serve the client. If they know they can serve the client in a way that's ethical, meaning mutually rewarding, then there's no reason that they should ever walk away from the client without getting a yes. So they predetermine the yes at this stage, and they get commitment. If they can't get commitment, they're leaving. And then the last step in our process is moving them to compliance. And what we're doing for compliance is we're actually building the motivation to action. So we're taking it out of theory or conversation or dialogue, and we're putting in specific things that have to happen to move this process from conversation to execution or implementation. Right? That may be giving me a check. That may be giving me access to your data. There's all kinds of things it can mean. But at that point, we've begun relating to one another at a different level. You're now a client. That's what commitment is. So there's a process we walk through, understanding it's driven by these beliefs that existed before we got there, the ones we're building in real time, the ones we're building about a future moment in time, which is so critical. Our process is temporally built, and then how we get to that outcome.
Okay. All right, let me throw this at you. And I'm tying it into what you just said.
Sure.
What do you think? And there's
I
no
love the
right or wrong
challenge.
answer to this question. Well, I'm telling you, I love podcasts like this.
Yeah.
This is what there should be. We're not singing Kumbaya today. We're learning. I mean,
I love
I'm
it.
not
I totally
necessarily
love it.
lined up 100%, but you're changing certain thought patterns of mine, and that's the goal here. So I'm hoping people are listening and thinking, because you are challenging some very set beliefs. What do you think is the number one reason why people object? And I don't care if you're a hostage negotiator or a police officer or a person on the Toyota car lot. What do you think is, and I don't know if there's a right or wrong here, but give me the number one or two reasons why people object. Henrik, you want that one?
Let me start with it, and then Joseph can fill in. I think, in my experience from having worked in sales for more than 30 years and trained more than thousands of salespeople, the main reason salespeople get objections is that they present a solution the customer haven't asked for. They
Say that
simply
again, the percent of the solution?
They present.
they present
They present a solution.
a
I got it.
solution the customer haven't asked for. So they
Okay.
go in, they do assumptions. They think they know what the customer should buy, but they haven't actually asked the customer about not what they need, but what they actually want. So they end up presenting the wrong solution the wrong way. And
Yeah.
that's why I think in classical sales training, you teach people a lot about closing techniques and objection handling. We much more like, in a way, to say, I have this policy in my trainings, say, do never tell the customer anything before you know what they want to hear.
Okay. By the way, I don't disagree with you. I think we are. I actually, one of my theories is I refer to as teaching salespeople to fail, because we give them so much product training, we call it sales training, that they're doing exactly what you just said, Henrik, and they feel like they're doing a great job selling, like they were taught to do. So that's why I love talking to guys like you that are saying, "Hey, I don't." Well, we so far, have you noticed? Until now, we haven't even talked about a solution. We're talking about the art of communication here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I wish, even in continuing education classes, they still don't have it right. Because what are they doing in continuing education? They're throwing them back in product classes. Okay, nobody's teaching them how to ask an open probe. So I'm with you. Okay, so that's a good one. What about you, Joe? You got one of your own, and then I'll share one of mine, and then see how it impacts your model. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the number one reason, I
Yeah,
think there's a number of reasons, but you
Yeah.
asked for the number one,
yeah,
is somehow or another you're challenging a belief that they deeply hold that you don't even know is there. So what happens is, I'm going to put it another way. I'm going to use different language. Most salespeople that I've worked with, and again, I've trained thousands of salespeople as well, all over the world, internationally, every culture. People always go, well, it's different here because we're Chinese, we're Indian, we're Lithuanian. No. Humans are humans. I can tell you, if you put them on a table and you take them apart, they look the same. And what happens is that the salesperson thinks they're selling to themselves. They use their own persuasion technology. They use their own belief structures. They use their own language, and they never find out from the client how to talk to that client in their language into their beliefs that either need to be changed and updated or connected with. And if you can do that, if you use the right form of communication that links to the beliefs they need to have to make the purchase you're trying to lead them to, it's very clear it's a yes or no. And when it's a yes, it's an absolute yes.
I think we're aligned up on this one. I shorten what you just said and maybe disagree.
Almost everyone does, Rob.
That line's usually used against me, by the way. It feels good when somebody else is fielding it. Fear of change, is just a big, and it really permeates kind of, and again, to Henrik, if I go in and throw in a solution, even if I've got the right solution, you might be better. Well, what if you're worse? I think I'll stick with not so hot. And again, that's why, regardless of what model, we better create enough trust to get a conversation in that we can go a little bit deeper into what's going on. Because we all know if I sell you the way I kind of got trained, that one isn't working so hot. But I just think that fear of change, and that's why you hear me use words like urgency. I notice every time I use it with you two, you almost wince. You don't like that word.
No, we don't like that word.
No, I could tell. I could tell. But we could find another word, which to me would be, can we go deeper into the relationship? Can we go deeper into, for you all, it sounds like going deeper into the dream of what this is supposed to look like,
Yeah.
because that's going to help us get past that fear of change.
Right.
But because if all you've done is show me a solution or, how you doing this and that, then into the solution, then of course I'm stuck there. And Joe, I happen to agree with you. I think that I've always railed against some of the personality models, Myers-Briggs and DISC. And it's not that they're not good; they're lovely. But what do? We take an assessment and we go, I can't believe we obsess on what we didn't do well on the assessment. And my theory is, as long as I sell Rob for the rest of my life, I'm in great
You're
shape.
doing great.
Yeah.
You're a genius.
Right. Last time I looked, I got Henrik and Joe sitting in front of me, and I better figure out, one's the analytical, one might be a little more social is what I'm already picking up. I have to adapt to that a little bit, but in the end, my personality really isn't. I think it's fun and it's good at parties, and I tell my spouse about it, but I don't really care about my personality when I'm with others.
I want to steal 2 minutes or 3 minutes of the conversation.
Good.
And I want to teach one of the things we teach our salespeople to the audience and share it with you. So I agree with you completely. Fear of change. But here's what's behind fear of change. Nobody's unwilling to change quickly and easily what they believe holds them back and causes failure. That's easy. But that's not the problem. That's not the challenge. That's not the issue. The issue is getting to change what they think creates their success. So if I go into somebody and say, hey, listen, you got these 3 things that they cost you money. You lost a fortune. And, you ate those donuts, you got fat, that. And, your heart's bad because you've been smoking. If we could change these things like this, how would you be willing? They go, absolutely. I could have more money. I'll be thin and look great and be fit. And my heart will be stronger. Yeah, tomorrow, let's do that. But as soon as I tap into the things that they think make them successful, which have, and there's no question, their success strategies have gotten them where they are. But their success strategies can't get them beyond where they are. Their success strategies get stuck where they are. That's the challenge with the success strategy. What I need to do, if I really want to be helpful to my clients, I need to dismantle their success strategies, not their failure strategies. Their failure strategies are problem-based. Their success strategies they're not even looking at because they want to fix problems. Only when I get over fixing problems can we even get into the conversation about how they've limited themselves by the way they approach success. I've got to redefine this whole chart. And now what happens is you're absolutely right. I'm hitting my head hard against the wall of fear of change. So I've got to make change not painless. I've got to make it so desirable. Now I'm going to tell you who does this really well. Every man or woman who's ever left a lover or husband or wife for somebody who they thought was better understands exactly what I'm talking about. They didn't leave because they were trying to fix a problem. They had overwhelming desire. And so these things are primal. I'm going to talk like a brain scientist for a moment. If we can tap into primal desires, the way people make decisions about the most essential qualities of what causes them to take action out of an incredible urgency of desire, that's the kind of urgency I'm willing to talk about. I can't stand the idea of not having what it is you're suggesting to me you can bring to the table. Joseph, if you can really deliver this, if you can really change my business by showing us how to sell without problems, having an organization where attrition is dramatically reduced because salespeople are leaving because they feel bad all the time. If you can help my customers not to be in threat and fear and panic because of what we present to them, if you can get them to the point where they go, I really do understand the issue of what you're bringing to me because it gives me a desired future and presents such an overwhelming case for return on investment that the investment up front becomes irrelevant, I'm all in. That's what we want to do. an urgency of desire, not an urgency of running away from what causes me pain and suffering. I don't want to bring the saber-toothed tiger in the room. I want to bring the Lamborghini. I want to bring that beautiful man or woman. I want to bring that Chanel dress or that, beautiful briefcase or whatever it is that they would lust for by the time I'm done having this conversation from them. So I'd rather talk about lust than problems.
So we also talk about going from working with a burning platform to working with a burning desire.
Right.
To make it a little shorter than what Joseph just did.
Told you, everybody does it.
Fascinating. It really is fascinating. I think I got a hint on this one, but now that I know you've disrupted pretty much the ABCs of selling here, okay, with a very strong argument. I'm not disagreeing completely. I think some of it's semantics, but
I'm okay with that.
I'm following you. I thought I heard you say something about other tactics. Like, are you also going to now start throwing out objection handling tactics and opening tactics? None of them are needed anymore. You guys. All right. No one's ever going to object anymore.
If I lay out to you, something you're lusting for, what are you objecting to?
Whether the rest of the team, remember, this is not a relationship. I'm not leaving my wife. Honest, honey. Because of that, and we can get back into business. I got it, but I got a team I've got to convince. I got it, but I got a client base that may be challenged. I mean, there are going to be questions that I'm going to have, no matter how compelling the argument is.
Questions are not objections unto themselves. Objections are unanswered questions. So, in essence, what I have to do is make sure I've answered those questions. So, if you brought that up to me, we're in a sales situation. Say, Joseph, I love what you said. By the way, when I sold Henrik, the original process when we first met, that was the issue. Joseph, I really like what you're saying. In fact, I like it so much, I'm going to champion you to get you in front of the organization so you can sell it, because I can't make this decision all by myself. Other people have to be involved. My answer is always going to be, great, let me help you. I can do that. That's easy. So the same conversation, the same argument, you could say, that helped you to understand the value of what we're bringing to the table, I'm happy to represent. And what I can do that maybe you can't yet, after you've trained with us, you'll be able to, but yet you may not be able to do it, is I know how to elicit from them their strategies, the structure of their language, the belief forms they hold. So when I present it to them, I won't say it to them like I said it to you. I'll say it to them like they're saying it to themselves. So they don't hear me in the head. They hear themselves in their head talking to themselves. Everybody believes their own voice more than mine.
Well, that's powerful. Personally, I think I wish more salespeople would get out of the language that they've been taught again. And if Henrik said, this will allow me to increase production on the assembly line, then I want to use those words and not, efficiency to the like you had said. Matter of fact, I think two very powerful words are you said. If we do this right, then when we do tie a solution in at some point, another thing you said, Joe, was that you were looking to achieve such and such. So I'm not pulling it from left field. I'm using your words, not mine.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, we're lined up on that one. I certainly want to use the client's language as often as we can. All right. Last tactic. Henrik's got to go to sleep at some point. So last question on tactics, because you're throwing them all out. Now, what about an opening tactic? Do I need an opening tactic or no more? I got to be able to, I got to have some strategy for the first 30 to 45 seconds. No?
Go ahead, Henrik.
I think, of course, I think what we typically think is that a lot of people think that everything they do with customer is a sales call. And we think about it in distinct phases. First, you need to make sure that the customer is actually having an interest in interacting with you. So we talk about the two first steps is creating awareness and interest. Okay. And if you don't have an interest yet, you are not in a sales call. Now we're doing marketing. So maybe there you need to have a concise message you can tell people so that at least they create an interest in actually engaging with you. So you need somebody to do the marketing step. When the customer has raised their hand and said, wow, I'm interested. Now we are into the sales. And then again, typically we advise people to start with what we would call a yes set. Something which reminds the customer why they want to speak to us. So then in a way you build this momentum for yes in their thinking pattern, so that when you suggest them telling about what have brought them success they have seen up until now, it will flow naturally into that. So then we have the sales process, which is really about transforming their general desire to a specific desire to actually work with us. And then we move, when that have happened and they say, wow, I like this, I want it. Now we move into the negotiation phase, where we discuss terms and conditions. But a lot of sales will just say, wow, everything is negotiation, everything is sales, everything is marketing. No, for us, it's three distinct phases in the interaction. And the more the salespeople understand where they are in the process, the less they confuse themselves and the customer.
Yeah. And we're lined up on that one, Henrik. Regardless of what process, I wish people would, for the love of goodness, at least have a process and a way of measuring what you're doing. Because as they say, if you can measure it, you can fix it. You guys are like walking, talking contrarians. But it's, I really will tell you, I want you to know this. So enjoying the conversation with you guys. Listen, there's no right and wrong way to this.
Yes.
Oh yeah, forgot I'm talking to the contrarians. Of course there is your way. Anyway, let's see. Do I have any? You've wiped out all my questions. How about one last question for you? I guess I don't need a company name, but you've got a lot of companies it sounds like you're going all over the world with this thing. Any companies that I recognize that are doing this, or is that you holding those cards to your chest there?
I don't know. I think normally we don't
share your client list,
because again, I think we have some sign of confidentiality with the customer we are working.
Okay.
I think most of the companies I think you would not be able to live the life you're living today without the companies we have been training. Let me put it that way. Okay.
All right. I'll take it.
If somebody want specific references, they're welcome to reach out.
That's fine.
And then we can give them all the references they need.
Got it. It's good cop, bad cop. That's the good cop approach. I don't even want to hear Joe's answer.
My answer is simple. My answer is that, if you wanted to, for instance, look at the IT market, let's pick that one. Right? Mm-hmm. One of those big companies that only goes by initials, you might know them.
Okay.
Right. So like companies like that. Okay. There's a Japanese company that used to start out with technology, and they've recently moved a lot into entertainment. I think their name, I can't remember. It starts with S, I believe.
Got it.
You may have heard of them too.
I got them. Okay. Big companies. Okay. I'm with you. All right, man. How do people get a hold of you?
Henrik, this is yours.
I think that they go to our website, acuityworld.com. You see here, Acuity World.
AcuityWorld.com.
Got to pull it down a little more, Henrik. We only got a little glimpse of it.
But a lot of people are walking their dog right now listening to this, so I'm going to say it to you. It's AcuityWorld.com.
Or they can go to Amazon and just Google our book, Satisfaction Selling.
Well, tell me about that. Let's spend the last 30 seconds on that book. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Satisfaction Selling. When did it come out?
It came out half a year ago in September last year.
Good.
And received the bestseller status on Amazon in December last year.
Good. Outstanding.
So we're really happy with this. And again, it's basically our manifesto when it comes to how you can work more productively with customers and salespeople.
Perfect.
Basically lay out everything we have talked about here today in greater details. Yeah.
I would say one thing about the book. If you're absolutely dug in and you feel committed and you want to spend the rest of your life solving problems, don't read the book.
Is this one of your Jedi sales tricks, Joe? Now I'm getting the book. How dare you? Okay. Now, actually, What do
But
you think will
but
happen if you do get the book? I think I could improve my selling, increase my opportunities. I want to be satisfied. How's
What
that?
will happen is it will challenge some fundamental beliefs, all kidding aside.
Good.
If you've been trained in traditional sales, you really got to go into it with an open mind. And if you're not going to, it would be a waste of your money. All kidding aside, I'm not being facetious
I
here.
understand.
I will just say I did a training in Hong Kong some years back. And by the end of this very intensive 2-week program where we share some of these ideas, I asked the people in the group, so what do you think about these 2 weeks? What do you take from it? And there was a factory owner from China, and his comment was, I'm really happy that my competitors are not here.
Quite the compliment.
It's a great closing line, by the way, Henry. It's a brilliant closing line.
Get the book before your neighbor. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right. So you heard it. These guys do not want you to get that book if you don't have an open mind. But you're a fool not to have an open mind. I'll say it for these two guys because, look, I remember when computers came in the office and, there were people who didn't have an open mind, but flippity-flappity computers. There are people who are closing their mind to AI. I think it's how we use the equipment and how we use what we learn.
Sure.
But the moment we say, I think I got this and I don't need to learn more, it's time to play golf. I think it's time to finish. Listen, really, really glad I got a chance to talk to you. Love the discussion. You changed my mind on a bunch of areas. A few I might need to sleep on it a bit, but I meant what I said, which is I'll never turn my back on an idea because I don't get it yet. I want to learn more about it. And that's why we write books. And I hope people go and grab that book. And when they do, please put a review on that book.
Thank you.
And have that open mind when you're doing it. Good. All right. I know how to get a hold of you.
I'm going to do one thing for you.
Yes, sir.
Henrik's, or you're in the States, right?
Yes, I am.
You're in the
Washington,
States. I'll
DC.
send you a book. Make sure one way or another you get me a thing. And all I want as a commitment from you is a 1-line private email. I'm not asking you to do it public or anything. Let me know what you think after you've read the book.
Okay.
So I know you want to, think, and I know you like to learn. My pleasure to send you a book.
I make that commitment to you now.
You got it.
Is made.
Just make sure get the immediate address. My commitment is I'll get a book out to you.
You bet. Okay. I'm actually a little bit, there's a part of me that would prefer that I buy your book because if I like your book, I want to give you a verified review. And if you mail it to me, I can't do that.
You can always buy it after the fact.
Okay.
Give me the pleasure of sending you a damn book.
Okay.
Buy it before I send it to you. I don't care how you do it.
All right. Send me a damn book. I got it. All right. Listen, a treat talking to the both of you. Really, thanks for coming on. And this was eye-opening, truly. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. It was great talk.
Okay. We'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.